28th of April 2025. So, apologies.
Good evening, members. I have apologies from Councillors Hannan and Wright. Late arrival apologies from Councillor Kenny, who should be a few moments. And I'm conscious Councillor Slade did give blanket apologies. I think that technically, so he is due here. Okay, thank you.
Declarations of interest as and when. Then we're on to item 3, the minutes of the last meeting. Saray, but they've got you as attending, and so I know Laura will amend that. Any questions from anybody? Yes, Councillor Larson.
Page 3 of the full transcript, I guess, at the bottom, the second sentence, it has been, although along with the number of members, the sentence, I think is...
Give us the reference number, because we might have
Yep, sorry. GR015/25 DE. So the second line there. It has been a... I'm trying to figure out what the word would have been. It has been a while, though? Along with...
What was the reference again?
GR015/25 E, and it's in the full transcript version.
Oh, okay. All right.
So you keep scrolling past the sort of summary.
I think that's in confidential.
Okay, so then we don't. Okay,
No,
right, got it. Apologies.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, got it. Thank you.
I've only got the one item, GR01525E1, which is to do with the enforcement or the Town Ranger pilot. Just as an update, we approached the company that indicated they would be open to being commissioned to do that work, but they've since confirmed that they wouldn't issue fines. So, which is the whole purpose of commissioning someone to do the work. So we've held off on that. We are going to try and re-recruit one post to see if there's any more appetite now that we're going into the summer season, and update members accordingly.
Happy to propose. Second to Councillor Creek. Evening, Councillor Kenny. Open session for the electors. We haven't got anybody in the gallery, so we'll move on from that. Then we're on to item 6. Shall I wait for you to plug in and open up? Yeah? Oh, I'll let Anne come in here because it's the budget and the assertion review. It's just for noting. Yeah.
Hi. Carry on. Okay, so you've got these are the March pre-year end and adjustment budget reports that Levi has kindly prepared for you. And there are a couple of items on there which need adjustment in terms of EMR movements. The main being the contingency that's on the second page, line 82, that has been used during the year but would need to be reallocated to the appropriate codes, because that's something that has been obviously agreed throughout the year. And then there are some EMR movements for the grants as well, in terms of that is going to mean that there is an underspend on the grant from a EMR release. So those are the EMR movements. The bank interest and dividends, anything on that will also get transferred to EMRs, which is part of the council's policy for the interest received on that. I think it goes to the general fund. And then any questions, if anybody has any, really.
So just quickly on the bank interest, does it say here the actual was considerably more than what was expected, what was budgeted? That's fantastic. Is there any obvious reason for that?
I mean, interest rates soared massively, didn't they? And because we set our budgets so far in advance, that's one of the things that we always tend to be quite conservative with as well, in terms of your budget as well, because the policy is that it gets transferred to the general fund. It's not something that you actually use to fund your expenditure, it's something that's used to keep your general fund at your 3%.
I'm getting a bit confused with the green and pink, but would the overall conclusion be that we're reasonably under budget? I mean, the budget goes from March to March, doesn't it? Is that right? So we are reasonably under budget?
Yeah.
By how much?
So the green and red cells are really only for individual lines, and that shows you where you are within budget. The bottom line, if you look at the income, we got 208, and we were expecting 25. So a lot of that was down to seal receipts and down to the bank interest. That was the majority of that, and that's again transferred to EMRs. So that's not something that we benefit from in terms of just revenue cover. That's more things that you use for specific projects. And then in terms of the expenditure on there, you've got 217,000 spent against the 324, which was the budget. And then obviously there are underspends in there as well, various projects. And some of those will be adjusted as part of the year-end process. So like, for instance, you've got £10,000 for election expenses, which we had budgeted for over a 4-year period. That hasn't been spent, but will get transferred to the EMR for a future year. So there are some items that will increase the spend.
Because that very well could be spent next, because we have 3 spaces and there might be a call, which is irritating.
On that point, we will try and co-opt 3. It's only if people depart at that point then. So we have experienced that in some years after an election where we've had 4 or 5 vacancies suddenly because members come on, it's not what they thought it would be, and then they've departed. So it's a risk, but we have got an earmark reserve for it.
Yeah, I'm sure it was about 8,000 last time we did, and I know that the EMR was looking a little low a couple of years ago, so I'm sure there's a bit in there now. I'm sure Anne will find us there. So it looks to me as if, to Councillor Kennedy's point, we're about £300,000 to the good. Is that right? Versus a budget. So that's brilliant news. Well done, everyone. Great work, and thank you to Anne for keeping such a really close eye on the detail over the last 12 months. I know that we ask a lot of you. But, you know, I think we can all celebrate a job well done there. So well done. And all of that £300,000 will then get pumped into EMRs for moving forward, yeah? Yeah. Less any adjustments, obviously.
Just so that you're aware, so at the end of 2025, which is March 2025, which is what I'm estimating, just over 30,000 in the EMR for the election expenses. So we'd built it up significantly in case there was an election in every ward, which obviously is the risk. Sorry, there is another separate analysis for you, which is governance and resources. This is a little bit more detail because some of the headings you can't really see what's within them, and I think it's quite nice as you as councillors to see what some of the things cover. So the big spending items have individual breakdowns for things that have all been authorised and paid for, but it just gives you a general feeling of what's being covered. And if there was anything ever in there that you decided you wanted more information, we could include it on this, but it just gives you a bit more detail of what's been approved. And a lot of the overspends are also relating to EMR movements as well. So they're things that have been through committee that you've agreed throughout the year.
Can I just add, the franking machine, have we saved money on that yet, or are we still in contract with it? We don't have I think didn't you save on the maintenance, but still paying contract for it?
We're still in contract for that for some time, I think.
Oh, gosh, right, okay. I think
I don't know if this is the right place to talk about it, but are we proposing to give laptops to the new councillors? Speaking as someone who has a wonderful town council laptop, which I never use because it's only, well, I do use it, but it's only for when you want to share documents.
I can update on this one. So we did ask that question previously. We've held off purchasing any new laptops for members. So what we're doing is asking that those members departing bring their laptops back. We will assess the condition of them. There's already one in particular that's had to be disposed of for health reasons. So I won't go into it, not here anyway. So there are some that may need replacing, but at the moment what we're saying is new members coming in, if you would like a laptop, we're more than happy to provide it and make sure that it's got all the security and everything on it and any training that you may need. So at the moment we haven't purchased any new ones, just the existing.
The only time I've ever used it is when I wanted to get into the shared document space, and you have to use it then. So it's worth having.
But certainly the recommendation we're getting is we should be providing them. They should be fully locked down to our system so that you can make sure you're protecting all the data and everything's not on personal devices, because that tends to be where you see the news articles in the national press when things have gone wrong. So at least we can remote lock things when we've got our own devices.
Any other questions?
So in the budget, there's many lines where there's been an underspend, which is fantastic, and well done, everyone. The computer software was budgeted for 26,000, went to 39,000. I mean, is that what's outlined further below? And that was somewhat sort of, and do we know, is there a sort of a reason for that? I mean, I understand it makes sense in a way. I'm just curious if there's a sort of an official, is there a way the team could estimate more in future, or does it just feel like they're all over the place in terms of how the companies are setting their fees?
So every year there is a release of £10,000 for computer equipment across the board, because we have a rolling replacement of programme for equipment. But additionally to that, in terms of the budget this year, or for last year, I added an extra code, so I split things out differently, because everything was in computer, and I wanted software and things like that separate to actual equipment. So if you look at the two, it's about the same spend, but I like to have things a little bit more detailed, if that makes sense. So I think that's why there's such a difference.
And that would be the same then for the professional fees and legal, that you've just sort of moved them, right? Okay, so there isn't really anywhere with a massive overspend. The insurance looks a bit higher. I'm presuming that's because insurance costs went up, or is it more you moving things around again?
Again, mostly with the insurance, it's because we pay for an amount up in advance. So this is why this is pre-year end adjustments. So part of that expense will go into next year, because it's not actually, at the moment, you've got about 18 months worth of insurance in there rather than a year. So we do we've prepaid, if you like, so there'll be an adjustment, so that will come down.
Thank you. Could I just check the page 4 on the projects, and this list of fees for surf statue on the Killer Call? Can I just check, is that for work today, or is any of that in hand for ongoing projects?
I'm happy. I mean, as far as I'm aware, it's only for work that's being carried out. Is that correct? to date?
It is. The actual cost to date is £17,481.50 plus VAT. Obviously, we don't pay VAT, but that's the latest position on legal fees this council's incurred.
Thank you.
Even
Councillor Thompson.
Just quickly on the surf statue, I thought someone would probably pick it up. I mean, I note that we had a £20,000 cap on our portion of any funding towards the installation of the surf statue. And I know that it's currently, is it still sat between the solicitors, and there's some disagreement still about some wording, despite the many meetings we've had. Do that, and then I'll come back on the other point.
So we've now reached agreements on the deed of gift. That's all been agreed. I think we're satisfied that the full council decision has been upheld and our red lines have been maintained. So we're happy with that. We've now moved on to the JCT contract, which is the works licence to actually physically be on site and do that piece of work, and that's in hand now. That's the foundation that need to do that. And then the grants, or the grant agreement, is the last piece of work really being looked at, obviously revising the 20,000 down to wherever we're going to end up with that 17,000 spend being deducted from it. So we have notified previously the foundation, so they are aware that legal fees are being deducted, and they are aware that we've incurred significant legal fees over the years, but we are where we are and we're nearing completion.
Probably feels like we should pick that up in the new council as a matter of urgency with, with the new administration, let's say, of the council. Yeah. So the other thing is SciTech. The Katie was alluding to the overspend on computing software. Am I right in saying we came to some sort of contractual agreement with SciTech within the last 12 months, and that's why we spent £9,000 on them? And I think it's because we needed them to be able to deliver something that, from memory, our IT manager wasn't able to or didn't have the capacity to. Can't remember.
There was that. There was also a data recovery exercise which cost some money as well.
Yeah, this is just the next succession review that's come through with comments. I'm hoping now that we have our apprentice in place that will be extending these to all of the areas that we should be including for councillors to check off on a monthly basis. And there have been a number of comments made during this process, and I'm hoping to make it a little bit more simpler with fewer questions, but actually questions that hopefully will make sense and ensure that you're ticking all the boxes you need to be in terms of the JPEG, the practitioner's guide, and your responsibility as councillors. So this is likely to change over the coming months.
Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, with the, as Councillor Creek said, the new administration, can we get that rota sorted out quickly at the beginning, that it's fair? I mean, I don't mind being used again as a backup in emergencies and things, but yeah. Just snazz it up with 3 biscuits or something.
Just a very quick point on that. I wonder whether if we've got the apprentice doing it, whether we could try and do it before full council meetings once a month or something, just to try and make it a bit more so that people haven't got to take time out of their day, if that's at all operationally possible. Does that make sense? I'm just trying to make it a bit more easy for people to access rather than exactly that. Yeah.
I think the only thing, as long as you don't mind, is I've always tried to do it following a month end, so you've got all the information. But if you're doing it like very early in the month, you'll be a couple of weeks behind. But you may get a bigger take-up. So if you're happy with that, then I'm happy to move towards that. Yeah.
Questions? I'm happy to propose that we note then item 8A is the retrospective approval for the Crantock Street Community Garden project, which has been somewhat around the houses. Obviously, you'll be able to note that they didn't get the full money that they'd applied for, but they're still coming back to us for the 2.5, which I think was agreed at, was it agreed at ENF? Yeah. And we're looking, yeah, so Councillor Creek is happy to propose that we fund it. Seconder, Councillor Larson, all in favour?
Worth making a comment that they are actually now applying to the latest fund that has come through.
Yeah.
I've very happily supported that as well.
Yeah. They also had advice from Cornwall Council to go more in depth into their, you know, the application. So, I mean, that's a positive as well.